Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something that's, well, everywhere. Artificial intelligence. It's buzzing all around
It
us.
really is.
But we're going beyond the usual tech talk and diving into a really fascinating area. AI and the law. Maybe a bit surprising for some.
Yeah.
Yeah, our mission today is pretty clear. Cut through the hype, give you a realistic, demystified view of what AI actually is,
Right.
how it's being used right now in the legal world, the nitty-gritty and the big questions it brings up for all of us. No sci-fi stuff, just the facts. And walking us through this complex landscape is our expert, who's really spent time digging into how AI practically impacts legal systems. You're great at connecting the dots for us.
Happy to be here and try to make sense of it all.
Okay, so let's unpack this. AI, artificial intelligence. What are we actually talking about here? In simple terms.
Well, fundamentally, it's about using technology to automate tasks that, well, when people do them, they typically require some form of intelligence.
Like playing chess
Mm-hmm.
or translating languages, maybe driving a car.
Exactly, those kinds of things. But, and this is really crucial, there's a big misconception we need to clear up right away.
Okay.
Today's AI is not a thinking machine like you see in the movies, not in the human sense anyway.
Right. So not like HAL 9000 or Skynet.
Definitely not. We're nowhere near that kind of strong AI or artificial general intelligence, AGI, they call it.
Huh?
The kind that can reason abstractly or just chat about anything like a person. Even though you might hear fancy terms like cognitive computing, the truth is, today's most advanced AI algorithms, they don't actually think.
Really? Not at all.
No. A typical 2-year-old human actually has more advanced cognitive abilities than the most sophisticated AI we have today.
Wow.
The key takeaway, the thing to really hold on to, is that current AI gives us really intelligent results, but without possessing any actual intelligence itself.
Intelligent results without intelligence.
Yeah.
That's a really important distinction.
It is.
And knowing that helps you, the listener, stay grounded,
Yeah.
right? Avoid the wild speculation and focus on what AI can actually do now, or maybe in the next, say, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. Keep it realistic.
So AI isn't just one single thing. You mentioned it's more like a toolbox.
That's a great way to think about it. Yeah, a suite of different computer techniques, a toolbox. And we can kind of group these tools into 2 main approaches, broadly speaking.
Okay, what are they?
Well, first, you've got what we often call rules-based systems, sometimes linked to knowledge representation.
Rules-based.
Okay, this is basically a top-down approach. Programmers sit down, often with experts in a field. They look at how things work in the real world, and then they try to model that using explicit computer rules and relationships, like if this, then that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, can you give an example?
Sure, a really relatable one, especially in the legal-ish world, is TurboTax.
Oh, right. Tax software. Exactly. The company basically modeled the incredibly complex personal income tax code as a huge set of rules. If you make over $91,000, your marginal tax rate is 28%, that kind of thing. And once you have the law expressed like that in a way a computer can read, the machine can do some pretty powerful deductive reasoning. It can figure out complex tax liabilities for, say, business expenses, stuff that would take a human ages to calculate manually.
Makes sense.
And you see this applied elsewhere, too. Like in Ghana, the Revenue Authority could use a similar rules-based system to automatically figure out tax liabilities, like VAT, just based on rules like if your income is over GHS 30,000, apply a 5% rate. Simple logic, but powerful when automated.
Okay, so that's the rules-based top-down approach. What's the other main tool in the toolbox?
The other one, and this is the one that's really caused AI to, well, take off in the way we see it today.
The one getting all the press.
That's the one, machine learning. This is more of a bottom-up method. Instead of giving the computer explicit rules, you give it lots and lots of data. And the algorithms look through that data to find patterns. Patterns that can then be harnessed for useful things.
Okay, machine learning. Does it actually learn like a human does?
Ah, good question. The term learning here is really more of a functional metaphor. It means the system gets better at its specific task over time, through experience, by looking at examples.
So it's not learning like my kid learns algebra.
No, not at all. It's not replicating human thinking processes. It's just improving performance based on exposure to data.
Could you give us an everyday example of that?
Sure. Think about your email spam filter. That's a classic machine learning application.
Right. How does that work?
Well, it learns to spot spam by looking at emails you mark as spam. It starts detecting patterns. Maybe it notices the phrase earn cash pops up a lot in spam.
Or emails from certain places.
Exactly. Maybe emails from Belarus or Nigeria, just as examples, frequently end up flagged. The filter uses those statistical patterns, words, origins, other features to predict if new emails are likely spam.
I remember once my spam filter caught an important email from my bank. It doesn't always get it right.
That's true. It's based on patterns, and sometimes legitimate things fit the pattern, or spammers change tactics. But another really powerful example is Google Translate.
Ah, yeah. How did that learn languages?
Not by studying grammar books, it used statistical machine translation. Basically, it was fed enormous amounts of text that had already been translated by humans, like United Nations documents, which exist in many languages. By analyzing these parallel texts, it figured out correlations. It saw that, say, the Spanish phrase oficina de correo appeared very, very frequently alongside the English phrase post office.
So just notice they showed up together a lot.
Exactly, with statistically high frequency. The computer doesn't understand what a post office is. It doesn't need to. It just knows those sequences of words tend to correspond.
Which brings us back to...
Intelligent results without intelligence? Exactly. But there's a catch with machine learning.
What's that?
It needs data, often huge amounts of data, to find those reliable patterns. And that can be a challenge, especially in law, because, well, frankly, not a lot of legal data is available in a neat, easily processable digital format.
That's a key limitation then. Now, are these two approaches, rules-based and machine learning, always separate? Or do they ever work together?
Great point. Very often, the most successful AI systems are actually hybrid systems. They mix and match.
Like what?
Self-driving cars are a perfect example. They definitely use rules-based systems.
Right.
You know, if traffic light is red, then stop, or obey the speed limit, explicit rules.
Right, makes sense.
But they also use machine learning, trained on millions of miles of driving data, to learn the more nuanced aspects of driving behavior, how to merge smoothly, how to handle different road conditions. It's a blend.
Okay, and what about people? Are we completely out of the picture with these systems?
Not at all. And that leads to another really important concept: humans in the loop.
Humans in the loop, meaning...
Meaning AI often works with humans, enhancing our capabilities rather than completely replacing us. Think about those self-driving cars again. Sometimes they encounter a really weird, unexpected situation, what engineers call a long-tail problem. Maybe a tree fell across the road in a strange way, or there's complex construction blocking the path.
Something it wasn't specifically trained for.
Exactly. In some systems, the car can actually call a human operator in a remote call center. That person can look at the car's sensors, assess the situation, and then maybe remotely guide the car past the obstacle or give it instructions.
So it's not fully autonomous then?
Right. It shows that even sophisticated AI often still relies on human judgment, especially for the unexpected. It's augmentation, not always full automation.
You know, hearing all this, it strikes me, this idea of using logic and systems to understand or manage the law, it feels like it has deeper roots. It's not just a 21st century tech thing, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. You've hit on something really important. The core idea, using, let's say, formalisms, maybe mathematical ideas, to make law clearer, more accessible, more predictable, more manageable. That desire goes way back, centuries actually.
Really? How far back?
We can trace it right back to the 17th century, to Gottfried Leibniz.
Leibniz, the calculus guy.
The very same, co-inventor of calculus, brilliant mathematician, but he was also trained as a lawyer.
No kidding.
Yes, and he actually envisioned using mathematical principles to make legal reasoning more rigorous and predictable. And it wasn't just him. Later on, you had other famous mathematicians like Arthur Cayley and James Sylvester. They were also lawyers.
That's amazing. There's a real history there.
There's a long tradition, this interconnectivity between law and mathematics, law and technology, this quest to bring structure and predictability to the often messy world of law. That's kind of the ancient bedrock for what we're seeing with AI today.
So that's the deep history. How did we get from Leibniz's vision to, the modern era of legal tech?
Well, jumping forward quite a bit, in the 1940s, you had figures like Leila Barringer talking about geometrics, the idea of applying more statistical and technical methods to law.
That's right.
Then from roughly the 1960s through the 1980s, we had what you could call the knowledge representation era. This is where early computer scientists really started trying to apply those rules-based AI ideas directly to law.
Trying to model legal rules on computers.
Exactly, trying to model legal arguments, legislation. A lot of the pioneering work actually happened in Europe, places like Italy, the Netherlands, England, Germany. Stanford was also a key center. Important academic conferences like IKL and JRIX, which are still running, got started back then.
Okay, so that laid the groundwork.
Yeah.
And that leads us to now.
Pretty much. Starting around the year 2000, we entered what we can call the legal tech and machine learning era. Stanford's Codex Center, focused on legal informatics, was founded in 2006, which, interestingly, was before the current AI hype really exploded.
Sort of the rage, yeah.
Right. And this period saw the rise of legal tech startups. Companies like Lex Machina, which actually spun out of Stanford Research, started applying machine learning and data analytics to legal problems.
So understanding the what and the how of AI and its history in law is crucial. But let's get really practical. Who is actually using this technology in the legal world today, and what are they doing with it?
Okay, yeah. We can break down the users into roughly 3 main categories.
All right. Who's first?
First up, you have the administrators of law. Think judges, legislators, police, government officials, the people creating and applying the law.
How are they using AI?
In several ways. For example, in criminal justice, particularly around sentencing and bail, judges are increasingly getting AI-generated reports estimating an offender's risk of reoffending. You might have heard of systems like Compass, which gives a score maybe 1 to 10.
Right, I have heard of that. Controversial sometimes.
Very much so. And we should definitely talk about the issues later. But it's being used. Also, government officials use AI systems to help decide eligibility for benefits. Think about programs designed to fight poverty. In a place like Ghana, their LEAP program, Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty, could potentially use a hybrid system. Rules to check basic eligibility and maybe machine learning to help detect potential fraud patterns.
Interesting. What else for administrators?
Policing is another big area. Predictive policing uses AI to try and identify geographic hotspots where crime might be more likely to occur. And, of course, facial recognition technology is used to try and spot suspects in crowds or on-camera footage. Again, thinking internationally, police in Ghana might use AI tools to analyze financial data and flag transactions that look suspicious, potentially indicating money laundering. So it's quite varied.
Okay, so administrators are one group. Who's next?
The second big group is practitioners of law, so lawyers, attorneys, paralegals, people working inside law firms or legal departments.
And how is AI changing their day-to-day work?
Profoundly in some areas. One of the biggest applications is something called technology-assisted review, or TAR, used in e-discovery.
E-discovery, that's the process of finding relevant documents for lawsuits, right?
Exactly. In big litigation cases, you can have millions of documents, emails, memos, reports. It used to take armies of lawyers weeks or months to manually review everything. Now, machine learning algorithms can scan these vast data sets and help identify which documents are likely relevant to the case or which might be protected by attorney-client privilege.
So it doesn't replace the lawyers entirely?
No, not usually. It dramatically shrinks the haystack, as people say. It flags the potentially important stuff, so the human lawyers can focus their time and expertise on the documents that matter most instead of wading through irrelevant material.
That must save a lot of time and money.
Huge amounts. Think about a complex case, maybe a land acquisition deal in Ghana. A law firm there could use AI to quickly search through thousands of pages of contracts to find specific clauses during their due diligence process, much faster than doing it manually.
Makes sense. What other tools are lawyers using?
There's legal analytics using AI to analyze past case data to predict things like how a particular judge might rule or what the likely outcome of a certain type of case might be.
Trying to predict the future, basically.
In a data-driven way, yes. There's also automated document assembly. AI tools can create first drafts or templates for common legal documents like contracts or even patent applications. The lawyer then reviews, edits, and refines it.
So it handles the boilerplate stuff?
Kind of, yeah. It gets the basic structure down. Other uses include natural language processing for analyzing legal texts, developing computable contracts, which we can touch on, and using AI for legal research or even managing the law firm itself.
So it sounds like for lawyers, AI is taking over a lot of the more mechanical, repetitive work.
That's a very good way to put it, the routine tasks.
But does that fundamentally change what it means to be a lawyer? I mean, if the machine does the grunt work, where does the human lawyer fit in? Is that line always clear?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, AI is definitely taking over tasks where, frankly, lawyers were sometimes acting a bit like human search engines or document sorters. But for the really complex, sophisticated legal work, The deep strategic thinking, the nuanced problem solving, arguing a case in court, counseling a client through a difficult situation, understanding the human element, that's where humans are still absolutely essential, still squarely in the loop.
So it's augmentation, not replacement, for those core skills.
Largely, yes. The goal for many is to free up lawyers from the mechanical stuff to do more of the high-value, uniquely human legal work.
Okay. Administrators, practitioners. Who's the third group?
The third category is users of law, and that's basically everyone else, businesses, organizations, and ordinary individuals like you and me.
How does AI help us with the law?
In a few key ways. For businesses, AI is increasingly used for automated compliance. Systems can help companies track and adhere to complex regulations, like GDPR data privacy rules, for example. Machine learning can monitor activities, while rules-based systems ensure procedures are followed.
Keeping companies out of trouble.
Essentially, yes. Then there's the idea of computable contracts.
You mentioned that briefly. What is it exactly?
It's where parts of a legal contract are written in a way that a computer can directly understand and even execute. Imagine a financial contract where, if a certain market condition is met, which the computer can monitor, a payment is automatically triggered according to the contract's logic.
Like code embedded in the contract.
Kind of. It allows for automatic execution of the agreement's terms. It's gaining traction, especially in finance.
And for ordinary people, how does AI help individuals navigate the legal system?
We're seeing the rise of AI-powered legal chatbots and self-help systems. You might have heard of apps like Do Not Pay, which started by helping people fight parking tickets and has expanded.
Yeah, I think I've read about that.
These tools can guide people through basic legal processes, answer common questions, or even help generate simple legal documents. For instance, someone in Ghana could potentially use an AI chatbot to understand their rights as a tenant under local housing law. It makes basic legal help more accessible.
Okay, so AI is weaving its way into how law is made, practiced, and used by everyone, which inevitably brings us to the big questions, the challenges.
Absolutely. There are some significant ones.
As AI gets deeper into the legal system, what are the really pressing policy issues, the ethical concerns that you, as someone trying to navigate this, should be aware of?
Well, one of the first things people often worry about is jobs, the automation of legal work.
Right. Are lawyers going to be replaced by robots?
It's more nuanced than that. There are definitely short-term impacts. Some routine mechanical tasks, particularly maybe at the paralegal level or in document review, are being displaced by AI. That's undeniable. However, looking at the bigger picture, the history of technological change, well, most research suggests it ultimately tends to create more new types of jobs than it eliminates.
So it's a shift, not just a disappearance.
Exactly. While some routine tasks get automated, the uniquely human skills, abstract thinking, complex problem solving, advocacy, client counseling, emotional intelligence, policy analysis, creative legal strategy, those are much, much harder to automate. And we often have a failure of imagination about the new jobs that will emerge. Think about roles like legal data analyst or legal process engineer jobs that didn't really exist a decade ago but are becoming more common now.
Okay, so job shifts, not necessarily mass unemployment for lawyers. What's another major challenge?
A huge one is algorithmic bias. This is critical.
Bias in the AI itself. How does that happen?
AI models learn from data, and if the data they're trained on reflects existing societal biases, the AI can learn and even amplify those biases.
Can you give an example in the legal context?
Let's go back to those risk assessment scores used in sentencing, like COMPAS. If the system is trained on historical arrest data, and if police practices historically have been biased, leading to disproportionate arrests in certain communities.
Then the data itself is biased.
Precisely. So the AI might learn patterns that associate certain groups with higher risk, not because they are inherently riskier, but because they were historically policed differently. The AI unintentionally embeds and perpetuates that bias.
And that could lead to unfair outcomes in court.
It absolutely could. It's a massive ethical concern.
Which ties into another issue, right? If an AI makes a decision, especially one affecting someone's life or liberty, how do we know why it made that decision? The black box problem.
Exactly. Interpretability and transparency. Some AI models, especially complex machine learning ones, operate in ways that are very difficult even for their creators to fully understand. It's like a black box, data goes in, a decision comes out, but the reasoning process inside is opaque.
And that really clashes with legal principles, doesn't it? We generally expect legal decisions to be reasoned and explainable.
Fundamentally, if someone is denied bail or benefits based on an AI recommendation, they have a right to understand why. The lack of transparency in some AI systems is a major hurdle for their ethical use in law.
This also sounds related to something you mentioned earlier, this idea of false precision.
Yes, the illusion of mechanical objectivity. It's a subtle but dangerous psychological effect.
How so?
When an AI system produces a very precise sounding output, like, an 87.394% chance of reoffending, it carries this aura of scientific certainty, of mechanical infallibility.
It sounds objective because it came from a computer.
Right. And the danger is that people, including busy judges or officials, might give that number undue weight. They might inappropriately defer to the machine's judgment without fully considering the uncertainties, the potential biases in the data, or the subjective choices made when building the model in the first place.
So the apparent objectivity hides the human judgments baked into the system.
Exactly. And there's also a risk, especially with complex systems, that lay officials, people without deep technical training, might misuse them or misinterpret the results if they aren't properly calibrated or understood.
Okay, so we have bias, transparency issues, false objectivity. What about simple accountability? If an AI system gives bad legal advice or a self-driving car causes an accident under AI control, who's responsible?
That's a huge legal and ethical question that we're still grappling with. Is it the developer, the user, the owner? Establishing clear lines of accountability for AI actions is a major ongoing challenge for legal systems worldwide.
And running underneath all of this must be privacy concerns. You mentioned AI needs lots of data.
Immense amounts, often, which inevitably raises significant data privacy and security issues. How is this data collected? How is it stored securely? How is it used? Who has access? Any use of AI in law, especially involving personal data, absolutely must comply with data protection regulations like GDPR and other emerging privacy standards. It's non-negotiable.
Looking at these challenges, how does a specific context, say like Ghana, approach this? Are there unique considerations?
There are. It's important to note that, as of recent assessments, Ghana doesn't yet have a comprehensive national legal framework specifically for AI.
What's the risk there?
The risk is unregulated adoption. AI tools might be implemented without clear guidelines on ethics, fairness, or accountability, potentially leading to some of the problems we've just discussed. There's a real need to develop national principles ensuring fairness, avoiding discrimination and due process, making sure citizens understand how AI-driven decisions affecting them are made. Aligning with broader frameworks like the African Union's AI strategy or the UNESCO AI ethics guidelines would be beneficial.
So what needs to happen? What are the practical steps?
Well, several things. Strengthening the underlying digital infrastructure is key. Building capacity training judges, lawyers, government officials on how to understand and use AI responsibly is crucial. Fostering collaboration between academia, the legal profession, tech companies, and government is also vital. And policy advocacy is needed to support things like the ongoing digitization of the judiciary, which provides the data foundation for many AI applications.
So wrapping this all up, it's clear AI is already making deep inroads into the legal world. It's not science fiction anymore.
Not at all. It's here, and it's having a real impact.
But it's not magic either. It's a powerful set of tools, a toolbox, as you said. Amazing at finding patterns, crunching data, automating routine work.
Definitely its strengths.
But it also has very clear limitations. It doesn't think like humans. It struggles with true understanding, abstract reasoning, ethics, and that nuanced human judgment.
Those distinctions are critical to keep in mind. Understanding both the power and the limits is key to using it well.
So here's a final thought I want to leave with you, our listener. Something to chew on. If AI can increasingly handle the more mechanical, the repetitive parts of law, freeing up the humans, the lawyers, for the truly complex, abstract, maybe even the empathetic and emotionally intelligent work, what could that look like? What new kinds of legal innovation, things we haven't even thought of yet, might emerge from that kind of human-AI collaboration? And maybe more importantly, what role do you play? What responsibility do you have in pushing for and shaping a future where AI in law is used ethically, transparently, and fairly for everyone?
Important questions to consider.
Indeed. Thank you so much for walking us through this incredibly complex but vital topic today.
My pleasure. It was a great discussion.
And thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious.